Hello and welcome to episode 190 of the official EstablishRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. I'm one of the co-founders here at ETR, as always, joined by fellow co-founder Evan Silva. And today we are joined by a young man who is in the betting streets, a young man who is in the Chicago streets with Silva, a young man with Roto World ties, which of course we love here. It is Connor Allen of 4 for 4. Connor, how's it going?
It's going well, man. The weather's starting to get nice out here finally, after the brutal winters of Chicago. And I think we're starting to come out of our shell a little bit. So, the streets are going to become a lot better in Chicago soon.
All I hear from Silva is about this Peace Pizza place or something like that. Pizza or something like that. Is that really the best pizza in Chicago, or is he just full of?
No, it's definitely not the best pizza, but the vibes and everything combined, like it's a great place to like go and hang out and like drink and have a piece of pizza. So I'll agree with that for sure.
Right. Okay. Evan, what's going on today, buddy?
What's up? Ready to talk about some futures here? Some awards.
Yes, exactly. On today's show, we're going to talk about some futures, markets, awards. We're going to talk about win totals some more. And actually, I know we already did a show about this 6 weeks ago with Raybon. Thought it was really good, actually. Shout out to us. But a lot has changed now with the draft behind us, with the schedule getting released. And also there's some new markets up like Coach of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, Team to have most wins, etc. Before we get into the show today, I wanted to remind everyone of three things. First, our draft kit is live. It's $34.99, includes everything we think you need to win your draft, whether it's best ball, dynasty, redraft, whatever it may be. Second, all subscribers to the draft kit get a credit on Underdog. If you already have an Underdog account, you get $10. If you don't have an Underdog account, they just upped their offer as of today to $35. Just an absurdly good deal, literally the entire cost of the draft kit. For instructions on how to claim that 10 or that 35 on Underdog, go to Silva's Top 150 and see the editor's note at the top. And finally, I'm actually really excited. We have soft launched our subscriber only Discord. Actually, by now, I guess it's hard launched. It's officially out there. Our subscriber only Discord. I think this is going to be really cool. Actually, like, I'm a Stone Boomer. Evan is a Stone Boomer. I asked him before the show what he thought. He said, "What's Discord?" Which I didn't really know either until somewhat recently. But I've actually gotten into it a bunch lately. And since we're only allowing subscribers in, I think the conversation will be pretty high level. To get in, go to the account tab on desktop on your computer, then click the Discord tab, and you'll find instructions there. Okay, let's start with some awards, and then we'll get into the win totals. With all these markets, man, I absolutely beg you to please shop for the best line. There are some really wide discrepancies between sites. Like, they're just asking to get picked off. Please punish them. We're going to refer mostly on here to DraftKings and FanDuel lines, because I know all the DFS players, like all of us, mostly have money on there. But again, if you're going to do this seriously, please shop. Okay, let's start with MVP. I have some thoughts on the latest MVP market. I think some of the stuff has gotten blown out a bit out of the water, similar to what happened last year with Josh Allen, where we started at 80 to 1 and he closes at 35 to 1 or whatever. You start to see a lot of value sucked out. I think value has been sucked out somewhat of Jalen Hurts, of Matthew Stafford, maybe even out of Matt Ryan a little bit. Connor, what are you seeing now with the updated MVP market changes? Anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah, so I think it's important kind of before you start making MVP bets, like understand who wins the MVP and how this market goes. So since 2010, and I'm going to use 2010 as kind of a turning point as where teams started passing more and going, at least more teams started passing more. Since 2010, quarterbacks have won 10 out of the 11 years. The only MVP to be not a quarterback was Adrian Peterson, ripped off the second most rushing yards in NFL history, was the focal point of the team's offense. And then during that same time span, every quarterback who won the MVP played on a team that won 11 or more games. And then now with that 17-game schedule, if you kind of use that win percentage, it comes out to about 12 games or a little bit more than 11. So you need to be looking at a guy who is going to be on a team that at least has the upside to win 12 or more games and, plays quarterback. And I think that's kind of should be how to narrow down the MVP market a little bit.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's why, like, Joe Burrow sounds interesting and stuff like that. The chances of the Bengals winning 11 or 12 games is so thin. It's hard for me to be on board with the Burrow stuff. The two that stick out to me that fit what you're describing actually are both in the same division. Lamar Jackson, 16 to 1, won the MVP 2 years ago. Obviously, expect the Ravens to be very good once again. Expect Lamar he gets Sammy Watkins. Hopefully he gets a better year from Mark Andrews he gets Rashad Bateman in the mix. And so I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about Lamar. And in the same division, Baker Mayfield, I know Evan has talked about that. Saw some 33-1 on DraftKings. You might be able to do better out there on Baker than that 33 number. But I expect the Browns and the Ravens to both be very good and win 10 plus games with variance to much more than that. Evan, I know you've talked about Baker for MVP some. Anything on the MVP market sticking out to you now?
Yeah, I think you just narrow it down to you want a guy that can check 3 boxes. And this is what I was looking at last year with Josh Allen. Plays quarterback, plays on a team that you think is going to do well, and has a chance at a true breakout year. And I think that Tua Tagovailoa this year does check those boxes after all that the Dolphins have put around him. I think the Dolphins are going to be good. And he's 60-1 right now. I mean, I don't actually think that Tua is going to win the MVP, but if I was going to take a shot on a long shot quarterback, it would be him right now based on the odds, because these guys that we've discussed, Baker Mayfield, we were hitting him at 40-1. Now he's 33-1. Jalen Hurts has, is all of a sudden a pretty, we were hitting him at 80 and 100-1. Now he's at 50-1. Matt Ryan, who we were hitting at 80 and 100-1, is now at 33-1. So a lot of the value has been kind of soaked out of those guys, but I still think that Tua is sitting there at 60-1 and is pretty interesting. I don't even think that, and look, I love Daigle, but his suggestion of going after Nick Chubb, and I just found him, he's at 100-1. I don't see how that could possibly even happen. I mean, we had Derrick Henry last year go for over 2,000 yards and 17 or 16 touchdowns. And he still wasn't, the only person that thought he might win MVP was Florio, So, he wasn't even in the mix, he wasn't even in the hunt.
I knew that.
That is an insane season, what he turned in.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even in the mix. How is Nick Chubb, even if Kareem Hunt, let's say Kareem Hunt gets hurt, I still don't think that Nick Chubb is going to be in the mix for MVP.
I knew Daigle had a thin take there when I asked him, "Oh, Nick Chubb, you like Nick Chubb? What's the price?" And he didn't know. He was just blindly firing. God, but yeah, go ahead, Connor. Any thoughts on Tua? I said Lamar and Baker still, I think, are okay. Any thoughts on any other MVP guys you want to mention?
I think it's crazy just how many people have written off Tua already. I mean, now he had no weapons last year, and he was a good downfield thrower in college, and he was very accurate and everything. And now just because he had 1 year where he was throwing short of the sticks with a guy who can't separate, and Devontae Parker, everyone's writing him off. Now they surrounded him with great deep threats and a lot of different weapons. I think that he's in a great position to succeed, or at least take a step forward. And like you said, I think the difference between him and Hurts now, both sitting in that 60-1 range, is that the Dolphins, I think, are projected to be a lot better team than the Eagles. Dolphins win total sitting around 9-10. Eagles win total sitting around 6.5-7. So I think that differentiation, while I do think that Jalen Hurts could take a step forward with the Eagles' improved offensive line, I would probably prefer Tua in there. Another guy that I have bet, Justin Herbert, 30-1 at BetMGM, now down to 20-1 in most other shops. He looked incredible for a good chunk of the season as a rookie. They bolstered the offensive line, moved on from Anthony Lynn, and I think the Chargers are very capable of winning 11 to 12 games. So he does check all the boxes, but again, the price varies. I think 20-1 is probably the lowest that I would take it.
Yeah.
Another factor to consider, I think, with Tua is that, he was coming off an injury that people compared to Bo Jackson's hip injury. And a lot of people thought that the Dolphins shouldn't play him at all as a rookie. And he wasn't ready to play when they did put him in there. I obviously like the Herbert take. I love what the Chargers have done along their offensive line in particular.
Yeah. By the way, we'll talk about correlation with some of this stuff when we get to win totals more. But if you think that these guys are going to win MVP, obviously, if you like Tua, you like Dolphins over, you like Dolphins to make the playoffs, you like Dolphins to win the AFC East and all that stuff. And so there's various prices on those that come into consideration. Let's move to offensive rookie of the year. And this was a little bit different, Connor, because running backs win this pretty consistently, way, 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 way more often than they win MVP. And one thing that stuck out to me, as recently as a few days ago, you could get Najee Harris 15-1 on FanDuel to be the offensive rookie of the year. He's down to 13-1 right now on FanDuel, but man, he's only 8-1 on DraftKings. When you see stuff like that, 13-1 on FanDuel, 8-1 on DraftKings, you know that you have a good bet just in a vacuum anyways. But yeah, Najee Harris going to touch the ball 250, 300 times, 13-1. It seems like just a no-brainer bet there for me. I have some other guys that I have thoughts on too, but that one seems like the best value by far right now. What are you seeing in the offensive rookie of the year market, Connor?
Yeah, I agree. I think that is worth noting, though, is it isn't always a quarterback. They've just won 6 times in the past 11 years. Running back won 4 times, while Odell Beckham Jr. was the only wideout to win, and he had to go 90 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 12 touchdowns in just 12 games. So, I mean, if you're a receiver and you're going to win in this market, like you have to just absolutely crush. Like even last year, Justin Jefferson, didn't win. And like, that was, incredible season, one of the best rookie wide receiver seasons ever. So yeah, for this market, I think Najee Harris stood out to me a ton. I think you'd actually still find some 15-1s too, if you're in New Jersey, 8-1 now on DraftKings. So I still think that he's okay there. But I think the biggest issue with this market is that you have 2 locked in quarterbacks starting week 1 in Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, while Trey Lance and Justin Fields probably aren't far behind. And I mean, Mac Jones could certainly play 3/4 of the season if Cam Newton doesn't turn it around. So you have like 5 legitimate options. And normally I don't think that this market has like that many caliber of different, options. So for Najee Harris to win this award, he not only has to probably put up like, 1,600, 1,700 scrimmage yards, which I think is very doable for him. But, he also has to have all the other quarterbacks turn in like mediocre seasons. So I do think that a 15-1 Najee Harris is a good bet. But I would, temper your expectations here. And the only long shot that I really think here, and this is something that is way, way deep in the weeds, and you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy here. I put a 1/10 of a unit on Kyle Trask at 100-1 on FanDuel. According to Bruce Arians, looking great in camp. Tom Brady entering his age 44 season. If he gets injured at any point, I mean, he has enough weapons, supporting cast, put him squarely in play, I think, to compete at 100-1. I'm not saying put a whole unit. I put like, $25 on it, just little throw there, and it could pay off. But if it doesn't, I think that it's still worth a shot at that price.
Mm-hmm. Evan, any thoughts on this offensive rookie of the year market?
I feel like everything's priced pretty well, specifically on DraftKings Sportsbook. We didn't mention Trey Sermon.
Yeah.
We've talked about him on previous shows, though, and I think him at 25-1 wouldn't be terrible. Elijah Moore, I mean, he's getting a ton of buzz right now. 40-1 with the Jets. I mean, if he's able to form an early connection with Zach Wilson, and I do think that this offense should take the post Gase bump, and also with Mike LaFleur, I think that coming from the Kyle Shanahan tree, some reasons for confidence there. But those would be the long shots that I'd be looking at.
Yeah.
How about like Rondale Moore, 66-1? He'd have to get real hot. I think he'd have to get hot like in the return game. Maybe return a couple of kicks for touchdowns, and maybe score some rushing touchdowns. But 66-1, if he can get on the field early, I think he will get on the field early.
Yeah, so do I. It's just gonna be hard for like the third receiver on any team to overcome one of the quarterbacks, like Connor is saying.
Yeah.
From the running back perspective, though, I agree with you on Trey Sermon, 26-1 on FanDuel. I think that Trey Sermon will emerge quickly as the lead back there. And then I think Javonte Williams has more outs than people realize here. 29-1 on FanDuel for Javonte Williams. Let's say Melvin Gordon gets cut, or maybe let's say Aaron Rodgers ends up on the Broncos and they end up being a really good team. I mean, there's a lot of ways that Javonte Williams just outplays Melvin Gordon and has a great year. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways Javonte Williams can get there at 29-1. I thought that was worth a sprinkle as well. Any thoughts on any of those, Connor? Also, we didn't mention Kyle Pitts, 13-1, Jamar Chase, 17-1, both on FanDuel.
Yeah, no, I like all those. I mean, I think they're all squarely in play. It just, the issue that we keep coming back to is it just seems like there's like 8 guys who I think are like kind of in play for this award if things break their way. And I mean, Kyle Pitts certainly won too. I think that if Julio gets dealt, I'll probably just like run to this market and put a little bit on Kyle Pitts, because then, maybe he's getting a little bit more of a target share and is a higher chance of a breakout. He could certainly win this award. And at 11-1, I mean, if you just beat DraftKings to pulling it down or whatever, put a little sprinkle on that, I think it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's done projection work before, I mean, it doesn't matter what you think about Julio Jones at this point. If he's seeing 20 to 25% of the targets and you remove that, Kyle Pitts is going to start looking really, really good, especially when Julio is replaced by guys like, I don't know, Zacchaeus or Gage or whatever. Defensive rookie of the year. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Ryan Reynolds, who's been writing up these markets for us on the site. You can find all his work in the analysis tab under betting. And he's been doing a great job looking at all these. I read his article on defensive rookie of the year. He noted that 7 out of the last 11 were essentially pass rushers to win the defensive rookie of the year award. So I started looking at some pass rushers with maybe some longer shots here. I don't know a ton about these guys, if I'm being honest. Gregory Rousseau, Jason Owe. Rousseau is 20-1. Owe is 33-1. At least they're pass rushers. At least they're on a good team, or what I think will be a good team. Any thoughts on those, Connor? How do you look at the defensive rookie of the year market?
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar. I like to bet on guys who are, playing a good team and are going to play a lot as a rookie. And like you said, guys who are able to, rack up like counting stats, like, sacks and like rushing the passer. So the two that stood out to me, I mean, they're nothing like crazy. It would be, a guy like Jalen Phillips, 10-1 at Fox Bet, 9-1 at FanDuel, 7-1 at DraftKings. I think that, he's in a great spot to potentially make an impact right away. And same with Jamin Davis, the linebacker. I have really high expectations for this team and just in general. So I think that, at 9-1, like I think that he's very much in play as well. So those are probably my two favorite shots here, but I can definitely see some appeal to, taking a shot on some other pass rushers further down the board with a little more value.
Yeah, I have Jamin Davis on my list as well. Just this is going to be a very, 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 very good defense, and Davis should be a big part of it right away. Evan, defensive rookie of the year, you know a lot more about these guys than I do. Does Rousseau or Owe have any shot?
Rousseau hasn't played in like a long time, but I don't know. I don't. Is he going to be able to get on the field enough to get out there and make a huge impact? That would be my question right now ahead of Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison. The one guy, longer shot that stands out to me is Nick Bolton, the linebacker from Missouri. The Chiefs took him in the second round. I think he's going to be an every down player right away, and he's a guy that might be able to rack up like 120 tackles, in his first season. And if he makes some, if he gets a pick six here and a fumble recovery for a touchdown there, then I think that he might have a shot. And he's at 33-1 on DraftKings. You could probably find better prices on other books for him. But he's a guy that stood out to me as a longer shot.
Okay, let's go to comeback player of the year. And this market just went up, I think, relatively recently. And Dak Prescott is the massive favorite, only plus 175 on Dak Prescott. Other relative favorites, Saquon Barkley 6-1, Joe Burrow 6-1, Christian McCaffrey 6-1. I mean, there's a lot of guys that can really, really play that are candidates for this award this year. Obviously, I think we all think that Dak and the Cowboys offense is going to have a huge, huge, huge year. I don't think I would take it at plus 175, though. What do you think about the comeback player of the year market, Connor?
Yeah, I also have a really hard time just getting off Dak because I go through these scenarios in my head that, okay, well, maybe Saquon could win. And, because this is a feel good award. It's guys coming back from injury like Alex Smith, Andrew Luck, Jordy, Keenan. Like those are just some of the winners over the past few years. Guys coming back from some kind of gruesome injury or a season ending injury, generally early in the season as well. And so a guy like Saquon could fit the mold there. But realistically, you would have to crush. But then you would also have to have Dak like not play well. And I think we have such high expectations for this Cowboys offense. And I just can't get away from that because I really think that they are just in such a good spot that unless he gets injured, I'm not betting anyone else. So I think the Dak, if you do want to bet this market, it's probably the play, but at plus 175, like all the value is sapped out of that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dak could have a mediocre year, like throw for 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. And let's say McCaffrey or Saquon goes for like 2,000. I could see that happening. But you're right. It's a bit of a tough hill to climb. Evan, any thoughts on comeback player of the year?
Tim Tebow sitting there at 33-1.
I have that in my notes. Oh, how offensive is this? Odell Beckham is 25-1 and Tim Tebow is 33-1. I mean, that is just a slap in the face. I think Odell has a shot at 25-1. Tebow 33-1. He's not going to be on the team.
Odell, I think, is actually pretty interesting. I mean, there's a lot of support from, I think, sharp individuals that are into the Browns as a Super Bowl contender. I'm into them as a Super Bowl contender. Odell, we have not seen him at his prime peak level of play in several years, though. So that would be the one knock against him. But I mean, I think he's going to come back healthy and he's going to get opportunities. And Baker played lights out in the second half of last season in the new offense, but it did not occur with Odell on the field.
Yeah, no, I like Odell for sure. 25-1 is a good price on Odell. I think Tebow thing is so insulting. Okay. Let's go to coach of the year because I actually don't have any bets here because this market I don't believe is available in Pennsylvania for one reason or another, but it is available for you guys in Illinois. So Connor, talk to people through the coach of the year market.
Yeah, so in the past 20 years, every coach to win this award has won 10 or more games. So it's not only about exceeding expectations, which is kind of the common thought about this award, but it's also being in the upper echelon of teams. So I think that this is kind of a correlation with teams that you think are going to be good or like potentially be in the running to have a good playoff spot. So for me, I think that some coaches in play here, Ron Rivera, 30-1 at BetMGM, 16-1 at DK, I think is still playable. I like Washington to be a really good team. I think that they actually have a good chance at winning their division as well. Like putting them at 10 plus wins, I think is very much in play, given all their offseason moves and just kind of their upward trajectory. I think that puts Rivera squarely in play for this award. Brian Flores, as we talked about with the Dolphins earlier, 16-1 BetMGM, and pretty similar in other markets. I mean, he's gotten steamed up massively, but I don't think that it's still too late to take him. I think that he's also a great option, as we also all like the Dolphins as well.
I mean, I like the Dolphins. We did the show yesterday, and these guys were killing me for taking the Dolphins over the Patriots.
No one was killing you. No one was killing you.
No one wanted to bet it with me, though. I'm sitting here on myself with the bet.
There are so many good options here. First of all, I think it's interesting, just the coaches with the shortest odds. Brandon Staley is like the favorite going to the Chargers, and I mean that makes sense. He's kind of like a hot name, and if he goes in there, they've got a lot of talent. If he goes in there and turns them into a 10, 11 win team, which I mean I think he can. I think he showed a lot of promise with what he did defensively last year, but. Brandon Staley, Kevin Stefanski, Kyle Shanahan all have the best odds. They're all tied for the best odds to win Coach of the Year. I don't think any of them are mispriced. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, like that. If Trey Lance comes in and balls out, and they're loaded. Their roster is loaded, so they're in position to check a lot of boxes. I mean, Sean McVay. I think the Rams offense could take a leap. With Matthew Stafford. I like Connor's call on Ron Rivera. Andy Reid all the way down at 20-1. He's like middle of the pack to win Coach of the Year. I don't know. There's a lot of good options here.
Yeah, it's the way you win this award is when you're better than expectation. Oh, this coach did such a great job because this team was supposed to be X and it turned into be X plus 10 or whatever, and so that's how you win. That's why Andy Reid is going to be in the middle of the pack. But yeah, I mean, certainly some good options there. I like the Rivera call, obviously. Like how much Washington football team leverage can we possibly get?
We missed DPOY.
Okay, yep, go ahead. Favorite is Aaron Donald, of course, but go ahead.
What do you think, Connor?
So I mean, this has basically just been the Aaron Donald Award, winning 3 of the last 4 years. Prior to the Donald Award, it was the JJ Watt Award, who won 3 times from 2012 to 2015. So it's basically I mean, the most dominant defensive players, they have no problem just giving it to that same guy again. It's priced accordingly. Donald, once again, favored plus 400. Myles Garrett, though, I think is interesting, plus 600. As you talked about the Browns, I think we think that their defense is going to be awesome. I'm all in on the Browns this year, taking another step forward. Myles Garrett definitely in play for this award. So if you want to take one of the chalkier guys, I think that I would probably prefer him for a little bit of a discount. But the issue is like both of the Bosas are also 11-1 and 13-1 different shops as well. With them playing on good teams, also dominant players. I mean, that's probably the lowest that I would go just in terms of this market. But I think that all of those guys are very much in play for this award this year.
It's funny, the people voting for this, I'm not sure how much they follow like defensive players that much. They're just like, oh, I know Aaron Donald. He had a great year. Let's vote for him again. And that's not taking anything away from Aaron Donald. He probably deserves it. I'm just saying that like these name brand guys, JJ Watt, Aaron Donald, like they're so likely to just like get the vote from people who don't really follow it that closely yet still have a vote. Evan, any thoughts on DPOY?
Yeah, you guys pay attention to the offseason Myles Garrett like training videos. I mean, this dude is an absolute beast.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like he's going to set the sack record like one of these years. I mean, he could do that. I bet him at plus 700. He's down to plus 600. You're not getting the best odds here, but I mean, what an absolute beast he is.
Yeah. Any other markets you guys want to mention before we move on to win totals? I don't know if you have anything on offensive player of the year or anything like that, but I do not. Okay.
No, let's move.
Let's go to win totals. So since the schedules come out, since the draft, there has certainly been some movement and there's been steam, on things that we liked before that obviously people are betting, not necessarily because of us, but just because I think the market is catching up towards efficiency as time goes on, of course. But there's still plenty of meat on the bone. I think, Connor, why don't you start us off? Let's talk Lions. Total is 5. Win total is 5. It's minus 110 on both. Dan Campbell is going full blown football guy on us. I mean, he's not even like trying to hide from it. He's just going full blown football guy on us. What do you have on this Lions win total?
Yeah, so I understand betting unders on low win totals like isn't always advisable, but I think that there are just so many reasons to expect this team to underperform this year. So you can find the under 5 minus 110 in most domestic books. You can also find an under 5.5 in New Jersey at minus 170 at shops like Tipico and Fox Bet. But if we just kind of go over this really quickly, so Matt Patricia and his regime are gone. Now you have Anthony Lynn, an offensive coordinator, Saints assistant Dan Campbell, now as the head coach, like you said, full football guy. His last stint as a head coach, he was the interim in Miami where he was 5-7, which is pretty good as an interim head coach. But then when you consider that Adam Gase, who we now know is a donkey, led that near exact same team and core to a 10-6 record and a playoff berth the following season, I'm not as excited. The Lions went from Matthew Stafford to Jared Goff, which is a massive downgrade from a pure talent perspective. Goff was also masked by Sean McVay, who led the league in play action rate the last 3 years. Goff has been worse in EPA, completion rate, and yards per attempt without play action his entire career. Meanwhile, Anthony Lynn's Chargers were 24th in play action rate last year. I'm not told that they'll use anywhere near the same amount of play action or motion the Rams use. And now Goff is dealing with the receiving core that lost Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, and is rolling out probably the worst receiving core in the league with Brashad Perriman, Tyrell Williams, Khalif Raymond, and then they drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I think should be a fine asset for fantasy. But their best pass catcher far and away is TJ Hawkinson, who's good, but you can't run an entire offense through a tight end. And their draft, I don't think was good outside of Penei Sewell. But then, if we look at Sewell, he won't have played a snap of football in a year and a half prior to playing this game at just 20 years old. They added 2 defensive tackles in the second and third round, which might help the run defense, which ranked third to last in run EPA, 27th in adjusted sack rate. I think that those guys can come in and make some kind of impact, but you're talking about maybe a jump from dead last to probably middle of the pack at best. You're not talking about a leap to, a top 10 unit or anything. They also added, 31-year-old Michael Brockers, who, is past his peak at this point. So I think that they're going to be bad defensively, significantly worse offensively with Goff and no help. They scored 20 or more points in 15 of 17 games last year. Their offense was actually pretty decent for the most part. Yeah. But on top of the roster decline, kind of look at the way the betting stuff here, 4th overall toughest strength of schedule according to opposing win totals. Of their 17 games, they play 9 away, 8 at home, 3 back-to-back road game scenario, and some early look headlines came out of Westgate Superbook. The Lions are not favored in a single game. And what's crazy is the Lions aren't even close. 11 of their games are an underdog by a touchdown or more. 11.
Yeah.
So I just don't see how they're gonna pull off 6 wins or more. And I get that they're maybe a little bit underrated with some of the lines, but I think that the under is a smash here.
Yeah. I think offensive line play, I think, will be a strength. And if Aaron Rodgers does leave the Packers and they go with Jordan Love, at least they have a chance to beat the Packers maybe once. But yeah, I agree with you. I didn't have a bet here. I don't typically, because I don't typically bet unders on things that are this low, but everything you said makes perfect sense. Evan, Lions under 5.
Yeah, I think they're going to be bad. I think they're the second worst team in the NFL. The Texans being the worst. Yet, I'm worried that the way that they're going to play, they're going to be able to keep some games close. And in the NFL, historically, games that are decided by one score are a coin flip. Mm-hmm. And so my fear is that, in a 17-game season, they end up at 6-11 and you lose the bet. And that's my concern. But I hear I think that Connor makes a ton of great points. And I'm not going to bet they're over. If I was going to bet them, it would be under, but it's tough. You need them to go 4-13.
Yeah. I think from a range of outcomes perspective, they're never winning 9 games, right? And they're really rarely winning 8. And maybe sometimes they're winning 7, but not very often. And then a decent amount of time they're winning 6. But the overall majority of time, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you start doing distributions like that, and that's the way that we try to think about player props, most of their graph is going to be on the other side of 5. So I think it's fine. Washington football team. I don't know what more we can say about Washington football team. I had them over 8 at minus 110. Now it's up to over 8 minus 141. Shout out to me for getting the best line. I don't know. It's just such a layup. I don't know about laying the 41. I think it's still good. It's not obviously not as good, but I think it's still good. Go ahead on the football team, Connor. I don't want to spend a ton of time here. We've already like pumped up the
Yeah, I
Washington
won't. I
Redskins
won't reiterate too much here. I mean,
to
yeah, they.
massive proportions.
Yeah, I won't reiterate too much stuff. I'm sure you guys covered most of their offseason already. One thing I will note, they went 2-5 in one-score games last year, which tends to regress year over year. Had league bottom QB play, still won 7 games. So yeah, I think that their overs in play here. Minus 130 actually still at FanDuel. And I think that they just got significantly better throughout the offseason. So yeah, I think that this is a great bet at over 8 wins here.
Yeah, minus 130 sounds really good to me for sure. Let's go to the Raiders, the team which will have a nightclub in their stadium this year, the Las Vegas Raiders. 7 is the total. Over slight juice on the over on DraftKings, minus 115. What are you thinking on the Raiders, Connor?
Yeah, so I like the under here. I mean, there's still some 7.5s around at William Hill or Fox Bet at minus 125. Again, shopping around I think is pretty important on this one here because I do think that they can win 7 in games, a decent amount of time, like you said. But I think they whiffed in the draft. They're replacing 3 to 5 starting offensive linemen. And they kept Richie Incognito coming off a season-ending Achilles injury. They drafted Alex Leatherwood 20 picks too early, at least. He's widely viewed as a fringe first-round pick. So, I mean, I expect their offensive line, which was 10th in adjusted sack rate last season, take a sizable tumble. Their defense dead last run to EPA, 27th to pass to EPA. They brought in Yannick Ngakoue, but I don't think that it's going to improve their pass rush from 29th adjusted sack rate to anything beyond like middle of the road probably. So I think at 7.5, I'm definitely interested in the under there, especially at a normal price like minus 125, minus 130.
Mm-hmm. Evan, any thoughts on the Raiders? I know you're low on them also.
Yeah, love the under on 7.5 on DK Sportsbook. It's 7 though, and I'd probably pass. But
it's tough.
Yeah, if you can find the 7.5s, I like the under there too.
Okay, Vikings is the last one that Connor has, and we've talked a ton about the Vikings, and we are on there over. I think defense, just from like a straight coaching perspective, is going to be better, even if you don't think the talent upgrades they made make a difference. And then obviously offensive line, I think is going to be much improved this year. They've spent so much draft capital on their offensive line over the last few years. I think Vikings chances to win the NFC North. I think you can get plus 275, maybe some plus 300s to win the NFC North. Over 9. It was 8.5 last time we talked about it. Now it's 9, but over is plus 125 on DK. There might still be some 8.5s out there. I'm not sure. But yeah, go ahead on the Vikings, Connor.
Yeah, I mean, I got in early like you guys. I took some 8.5s, and there's still like some with a lot of juice, though, minus 149 at Fox Bet. But really, if you're only able to find a 9, I think that the best way to do it is probably just put it on the division, plus 300, like you said, widely available, actually, like plus 275. I think at this point, that's probably your best option. And like you said, I just think that this team is primed for a bounce back. And I think that even with Aaron Rodgers with the Packers, I think that they're in play to compete for the division. Without Aaron Rodgers, I mean, they become like, a significant favorite, at least in my book. I think that the Bears are a little bit overpriced in terms of how close they are to the Vikings to win the division.
Yeah. Evan, anything to add on the Vikings?
No, but I mean, yeah, I mean, we were all betting this early. Yeah. And obviously now the number moved, but now you can get plus money at 9 wins. So I mean, I'm still on. I think that they're a double-digit win team. I think they're going to be really good on offense, and I think that they're going to take. I mean, I think their offensive line can all of a sudden like be actually good.
Oh yeah. I'll say this about the NFC North stuff. If you like teams other than the Packers, if you wait until and you think Rodgers is coming back, if you wait until it's announced official that he's coming back, you'll be able to get the Vikings at a way better price than they are now, because obviously the Packers lines are going to get bet up and the other teams like the Bears and the Vikings and the Lions will come down. A few others that I wanted to mention here before we get out of here. On the last time we did this 6 weeks ago, I said that I thought Eagles under 6.5 at the plus money was pretty good. I think there's enough variance with the way Jalen Hurts can play towards upside that I'm not really on that one as much anymore. Over 6.5 is minus 155. So I want to make an amendment there. Chargers over 9, minus 110, I think is okay. And then the one, I mean, I don't know about, I don't want to say that I like every NFC East team. And this is where I get into trouble with the Cowboys, where I'm lower than market on Cowboys, but I think Giants over 7 at minus 130. I have more faith in the Giants than I think the market does. I think they've made significant improvements on defense and to their pass catching core. And so, I think Giants over 7. The problem is if I think Eagles over is okay, and I love Washington football team over, and I like Giants over. I mean, that leaves me with the Cowboys with not very many wins. So, which is not necessarily where I want to be. So I would think more about that in that context as well before I bet. But yeah, any thoughts on any of those, Connor? Eagles, Chargers, Giants?
No, I think those are all well said. I mean, the Eagles one is tough for me too, just because I like you said, I think that they're well positioned to take. I mean, win like 7 games. I don't think he's asking a whole lot at this point.
Yeah.
From this team specifically. But then the Giants are interesting. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really too sold on them either way. It's probably a stay away from me at that number. I was really low on them last year, and I think that that almost came back to bite me there, depending on the number you got. But I think that Daniel Jones just continues to show that he is just very volatile and will play incredible one week and then terrible the next. So it just depends on with the additions they have. I think it's they're very much in play to win 7 or more games.
Steelers are down to 8.5.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Market hates the Steelers.
Not that I'm disagreeing with it. The Texans moved up to 4.5. Wow. What did they do?
I think.
How did they get that?
I think
how did they get the bump?
Because Deshaun Watson is playing it really hard, man. Like he's like really proclaiming innocence here, and so I think people think there's at least a chance he's gonna play this season.
It seems like the more time that there's silence, like the longer the time goes on, the more chance there is that Deshaun Watson, or at least the markets perceive that Deshaun Watson's going to play.
Yeah. So. Yeah. One thing I'd say, and I want to get Brandon Thorne on here. Like, I don't pretend to be any kind of offensive line expert, but a lot of these teams that I like this season, or we like, I mean, there's so many teams that are so much better on offensive line. The Vikings are so much better. The Chargers are so much better. The Cowboys, the Eagles are all so much better on the offensive line. I mean, a ton of other teams too. And so I want to get Brandon on here to try to sift through and make sure I'm thinking about this correctly. But yeah, a lot of these teams, I think, again, what's underrated in the market, what's not factored in, but has a big impact on games is going to be offensive line play. And so I think that makes a lot of sense on the Chargers stuff, the Eagles stuff, Cowboys stuff, getting all that, Vikings, getting all those teams back healthy and with more talent. All right. Any other win totals we didn't talk about, Evan or Connor, that you guys want to hit on?
I don't have too much more. The only other, no, I mean, the only other thing that, I mean, you guys touched on too, Jags to win the division, I think is in play as well. Plus 750 DK, plus 1200 still a bet MGM for those who have it. So,
and if you like that, then you should like over 6.5 wins for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
which is still at plus money, I believe.
Yeah. And Trevor Lawrence to win offensive rookie of the year. I mean, there's a lot of correlation that you can do with these kind of bets. Yeah, I still think Seahawks plus 300 to win their division is decent. Browns plus 145 to win theirs. And we mentioned Vikings, you can get around 3-1. I think those are all okay for divisions too. By the way, there is a betting channel in our Discord. Again, if you have an active subscription to the Draft Kit or to In Season, you have access to the Discord. Get in there. There's a betting channel. I'll be in there. We're going to get Silva in there, despite him being a Stone Boomer. We're going to get him in there to talk about some betting stuff in the channel there as well. So check that out. All right. That is going to do it for this win totals and futures podcast. If this doesn't sound as good as normal, it is because producer Luke actually coaches. He lives in Manchester, England, but coaches an American football team, and they have practice on Wednesdays while we're recording this. And so I actually had to produce today. So it doesn't sound as good as usual. Don't blame producer Luke. Blame me. For Connor. Oh, Connor, I didn't give you a chance. Tell the people where they can find you, where they can find your work, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So I'm over at 4for4. We have a new betting subscription. We're going to have a player prop tool for all of John Paulson's projections. Some of the best in the industry. And I'm really excited about that. We're going to have a bunch of other tools as well. And, odds tables and everything going on there, in addition to all of our other 4for4 content. So yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.
Cool. Where are you on Twitter?
Oh yeah, at Connor Allen NFL on Twitter.
I mean, nothing matters if it doesn't go down on Twitter. So yeah. Okay.
Truth.
All right. That is going to do it. For Connor, for Evan, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.